I think the Grail is kind of integral to my life, really. It's a very big part of my life. The Grail, well, it's a bit like a part-time job, really. And sometimes, being on the national team, it feels like a full-time job, really. It's very much, it's hard. It's hard to describe. It's just so much a part of who I am and what I do. It's not something that I consider kind of separate, if you know what I mean. It's something that I'm interacting with all the time. I live quite close to the Grail house, so I'm here a lot of the time. So I'm constantly interacting with other Grail members. And I'm also the coordinator of the International Spirituality Network, which I've been doing for 5 years now. And that's an email network, and I facilitate it by regularly putting something out there. That's a conversation that's happening globally all the time, really. Well, it's certainly happening globally all the time in my head, and I'm thinking, oh, what can I do next? And that's really interesting too. Yes, I don't think a day goes by that the Grail isn't in my inbox. Something from the Grail isn't in my inbox, or I'm not thinking about the next reflection morning I'm going to run, or what am I going to do next year? There's just so much opportunity in the Grail. The Grail is the place where I think I have found my authentic voice. It offers you so many different pathways, so that no matter what your strengths are, your talents, your interests, you are able to find, some way of being involved or contributing, or even, starting your own kind of work, project, ministry. So many things that happen in the Grail is because someone had an idea, and we are so supportive of people's ideas. It's a real place of growth and creativity and freedom, and I have found my voice. I think I have very much found my voice. I've become a lot more confident in using that voice, but I've been able to do things in the Grail that I could never have done otherwise. I mean, to be offered an opportunity to give 5 lectures on ecological theology and spirituality, for example. The opportunity to run reflection mornings. I run 6 reflection mornings a year at Avila, and I'm totally free to choose what we're going to reflect on, what author we might choose or what subject we might choose. And I get to select all that, and then I get to actually do it, which is wonderful. Then I learn so much too, because each individual Grail member comes with so much their own stories, their own learnings, their own knowledge, their own perspective, that takes me beyond the horizon that I would otherwise have, I think. The international aspect of the Grail has become very important for me, and I think that's an opportunity that anyone coming to the Grail would not realise is actually there, because it's not obvious. But for the Grail, I have travelled to South Africa. I've been to South Africa for the Grail. I've been to Portugal several times. I've been to the Netherlands, and it's not just the fact that you're going to a new or exotic place. It's that any time you go to an international Grail event, you are meeting with Grail women from all over the world. And that is just such a gift. It is such a gift to meet these women who share your vision, who are passionate about social justice, about transforming the world, about spirituality, about theology, about growing in every way possible. And we come together and we share ideas, we have the most wonderful time. And it's those, I think, those opportunities that often keep us motivated in the Grail, keep us going. And often too, in those meetings, we can see how the Grail is changing the world. Maybe only in small ways, in certain places, but we're there. I think it doesn't matter that we're a group of older women. Of course, that begs the whole question of how much longer will we survive? And that's a question that we are kind of grappling with at the moment, like many other similar organisations in this country. But I think for us, it's not a problem that we are mostly women of a certain age. I think once you've had your working life and you've raised a family, you have time. So that's a good thing, because most of the women in the Grail do actually have time to be together, to do things together, to do programs and so on and so forth. I would have been in my early 20s. I met a woman who said to me, would you like to come and do a social analysis course with the Grail? And I had no idea what social analysis meant, and I knew nothing about the Grail, and she wasn't very good at explaining it. But I joined the group. It was a group of young professional women, and Ruth was actually the person leading the group. And we would meet once a month at the Grail House in Sydney, in Avila, and we would have a meal together, and then Ruth would teach us about how we could analyse our society in terms of social justice. She used the census a lot, and that's how I met the Grail. But then when I got married and I was working full-time at the same time, I think my connection with the Grail probably changed. They would invite me along to things, and sometimes I'd go and sometimes I wouldn't. And then I ended up having 4 children. But all through my adult life, I think the Grail was there very much as something that was very formative spiritually, but not just spiritually, very much formative in terms of my understanding of society and how society worked. And I was very grateful for the relationships and the celebrations that they'd invite me to. And my family sometimes were invited to things. We had Christmas celebrations here every year. And we celebrated the 1st of November, the Grail feast day. I think as my family grew up, I got older and I began to think, what was I going to do? I think a pivotal point, a turning point was I was around 49 years of age, and the thought of turning 50 seemed to me quite significant. And it was at that time that the Grail in Sydney, I think, had a retreat. And I went on retreat with them, and I think a number of things happened at that retreat. One, I think, just our informal gatherings at night really showed me just how together these women were. I was just really impressed with how together they were. They were all such strong, interesting, intelligent women in their own right, but they were also a very close-knit community. And so that, I was thinking that was really attractive. Eventually I decided that I would make a commitment to the Grail and become a fully committed Grail member, which was something that I'd resisted up till then because I didn't want to make a commitment where my commitment could only be half-hearted, really. If I was going to make a commitment, I wanted to be able to devote a good proportion or a significant proportion of my time to things. So I did actually make my commitment at the end of 2005. I have been very active in the Grail for the last 15 years, and for the last almost 6 years now I've been on the national leadership team. Because the Grail is an international movement, being on the national team means that you very much are then a part of international connections, international meetings, international relationships. So in a way, the national team, one of the important things they do is to be a conduit between the international movement and the regional groups in Australia. So, for example, someone on the national team has to go to international meetings usually. There's an International General Assembly once every 4 years. There's an IC meeting, I think, every 2 years. Not exactly sure. I lose track of that. But that's certainly quite a bit of work, as well as trying to kind of steer the Australian Grail, which, because we've got groups all over the country, in Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, and also people scattered in North Queensland, it's quite, it can be quite challenging at times. We have very few young women who actually even turn up to our programs. Young people these days, from my observation, don't have the time for anything really, outside of their own lives. What I would say, well, I'd ask them a question. I'd ask them, what are you looking for? What are you looking for? I know what the Grail could offer them. I think community is one thing. I think the wisdom of Grail women is another. The Grail House here in Sydney, a lot of us have often commented on how we find it's a safe space where women can be heard, where women can talk, they will be listened to and they will not be judged. It's also very much a place where over the years, over many, many years now, we have offered workshops, seminars, courses, retreats, all kinds of different opportunities to make sense of our world, to learn about our world, to become more theologically informed, to be nourished spiritually. So there are a lot of things that we could offer young women, if only they would come. I wouldn't be who I am without the Grail. I am incredibly grateful to the Grail for so many things in my life. And yes, I do hope that we'll continue. We celebrate 100 years. Well, the celebrations will start, I think, at the end of this year. We'll celebrate for the whole of next year, our centenary. Well, that will be a wonderful time of, I think, reflection on where we've been and perhaps where we can go in the future.